All right, so welcome back to Crestview Leads. It's a podcast where myself, Tim Bolduc, the city manager for the city of Crestview, get a chance to sit and talk to leaders that are I know or that are in my life, people I think have influenced me in some way. And we talk about pretty much anything I want to talk about. So welcome, Charles. I appreciate you coming in.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, so Charles is a good friend of mine. We go to church together, but we also have done some really cool things in the community together. And so he is so tell me, well, first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
We moved here in 2014. My wife was military. She retired here. And we started the Lawn Barber, my business now. I was a fitness director for Golds for the first 3 years here. And then my business kind of took off, so I had to pick one.
Right.
And I picked the one that was more profitable for my family. And then, like I said, man, the city embraced me, man, and it's all up from there.
Right. But tell me, that's funny that you said that you gave up the fitness coach thing, yet you're putting messages out at 5:30 in the morning that you're at the gym. So
yeah, we still get it in. It's one of those things that when it's your passion, you never really let it go.
Yeah.
So I always kept it in my tool bag, and that's just something that God has took me down a path that I don't think I ever will relinquish.
Right. Charles, you're one of those guys that when like 0% body fat, it makes me want to just choke you out, but I'm afraid I can't do it. So I won't even try. But no, so tell me, before we get into the leadership in our topic for today, which is going to be about gratitude, and I'll cover a little bit later on why we're going to do that. But tell us a little bit about the Bulls and what you do with the Bulls.
The Bulls is a nonprofit travel basketball team.
Right.
We started roughly about 3 years ago. And the focus on that is giving the young men and women tools of life through basketball. We try not to just say it's all about basketball, because it's not. It's about life. But basketball is just our platform we use to get our message across. But in doing that, and the platform God has blessed me with, we try to show our young people that their time is more valuable than any materialistic thing that even society may even shoot their way. And the way we do that is through community service,
right.
serving the public, serving our community, showing these kids through their actions. You know, we do a lot of talking, but it's very few that just steps up and actually get out there and walk the walk. And that's just one thing we do with the Bulls, is we want to show that our leaders, as yourself and other people, that these organizations, youth organizations around here, are really promoting positivity and growth in the young people, that they can be productive citizens.
Yeah, I think the way we actually met is you came up and asked me if I had any community projects that the Bulls could do.
Yes,
and
sir.
So that was pretty cool. And then we together had an opportunity to go to DJJ, right? The Department of Juvenile Justice, or to the
Youth Academy.
Oh, the Youth Academy. That's where it was. And then we got a chance to talk to them. And so that's something that you're still doing? That's been a couple years ago.
I've been doing that for like 5 years.
Okay.
And then we've actually trickled over to the DJJ.
Right.
And by the way, they want you to come back.
Okay.
So
I'd be happy to.
But it's been that thing has been a blessing to me as well, because I grew up in a kind of rougher upbringing.
Okay.
But God has had his hands on my life. And now I'm at the point that he's revealed that to me. And that's where I get into why I'm driven to do and give back the way I do. Because it's bigger than just me. I'm not one of those that's big on clout and me and, it's all about me, but it's about young people. Because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if I didn't have leaders and people who thought about something bigger than themselves.
Right. People who invested in you along the way. And so you have decided to do that then as well. And
yes,
you do that through the Bulls, which is cool because it creates that team opportunity. There's a competitive, they're good. Bulls are good.
Yes, they are good.
They're good. And there's that competitive nature, but there's also what I love about it is it's like a lot of times when I talk about leadership or I get a chance to speak on it, I try to talk about the 360 degrees of development. And so it's not just like technical skills that we develop, but it's also, how do we build relationships? And one of the area that I haven't had an opportunity to do that in that you get to do all the time is with our youth. And so you get a chance to kind of show them, I love what you just said, a better use of their time. So instead of video games, we're getting some exercise in, or like a couple weeks ago, we were out mowing yards in the rain with some of them. And that, we had code enforcement cases where people were in a situation, they had properties that were deteriorated. They couldn't get them cleaned up on their own. And you guys came in with your equipment and your resources, and you brought the bulls along.
Oh, yes. But I don't just want to base it off the bulls.
Right.
Because it's a lot of wonderful people in this community who linked up, reached out.
Right.
Hey, man, when y'all do this cleanup, can we be a part of it? And, man, when you get people like that in a city that have no ties, but their heart, man, that moves. And that makes noise, more noise than me and you could ever make.
Yeah, I pulled up to that thing that morning, and there was, 50, 60 people?
I think they counted it was 78.
So 78 people, and it was raining.
Raining and cold.
It was raining and it was cold to go out and mow. And just that, even today, like the smile you got on your face. When I started, Chance is our public information manager here at the city, and he wanted us to put together this podcast. And, I love the topic of leadership just because I think that, we get these little snippets that we see where people do these podcasts and kind of like we're doing here, but they do these little snippets and we don't get a chance to kind of talk about like the harder side of leadership, or there's things, we talk about the things that are fun. I think sometimes we don't talk about like all the rest of it, like what's the results. And so when he said, hey, as you're looking to get guests on, come up with some topics, or what topics do you think? When I thought Charles Reynolds, the very first word that came to my mind was gratitude. And so I watch you lead these young men. I watch you lead the other small businesses in our community. I watch you lead what some people would consider to be like these underdog type sectors that you kind of get out in front of them, or at least encourage them, pull them along 5:30 in the morning doing your stupid workout, killing me with that. But I don't know. I'm at jiu-jitsu at 5:30, so maybe. But every time I see you, it's never about what Charles is doing. It's this great gratitude for like kind of where you are, your opportunities. How do you cultivate that? How can we? Because if we're going to develop leaders through this program, I want to be able to help them understand, how do you stay grateful as you continue to get more and more successful.
First, God. Okay. Then attitude.
Okay. You're going to need to tease that one out, brother.
Okay. Well, I always say attitude because attitude reflects your actions. And you can't appreciate or have gratitude without a positive attitude, because gratitude is just that showing your kindness to others. Right. And to show your kindness, you got to be able to appreciate the blessings and the kindness that God has stored upon your life.
So how do you stay focused on that side of it? Because it gets easy, right? So it's not easy. Today was raining. This morning you're in the landscaping business. That's gotta set you off a little, or set you back a little bit. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you? But 5:30 or 6 o'clock this morning, I'm reaching out to you to come be on this show, and you're absolutely. How do you stay so? How do you keep that good attitude? What do you do?
Honestly, Tim, I can't even get on here and try to stun as God. I will stress that till I'm blue, and I'm not turning blue no time soon. But I just say that because blessing other leaders, other people. When I wake up every day, I always see like this. This is my factual thought. God never left me, never gave me an excuse. When I needed him, even though if it wasn't on my time, he showed me in 44 years he's had his hands in my life. And now I see, and anything I apply myself to, I have that same mentality. Is we can all make excuses, but what have excuses gotten us?
Yeah.
Everybody has a great game plan, but not everybody gets in the game and make that game plan a reality because of the what ifs or who's going to like it. See, being a leader, like you said, it's got a lot of good things with it, but it also comes with, as you know, with backlash.
Right.
Because you can't please everybody. And to be a great leader, I feel you got to have a pillar and a foundation of morals, meaning integrity, character, good attitude, positivity. And I look at every opportunity when anybody calls me, it's an opportunity to show God's goodness. That's how I really see it. And every time I present it with an opportunity, that's how I take it. I take it as, God, you wouldn't have put that in my path if you didn't want me to get involved in that in some capacity. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So do you have somebody, when you look back over, you said 44 years, when you look back over your life, is there someone that you can remember, a leader in your sphere of influence, somebody who had influence over you that kind of input that on you? Is that something?
My grandparents.
Okay.
My grandfather, may he rest in peace. I just buried him 3 weeks ago. He took me in. He was a master sergeant, and I was.
That's where all that discipline came from.
It is. I was in a dark place as a young kid.
Okay.
And you saying gratitude. He came, and I was in juvenile, and he came and took me in, and he told me, he said, it's something about you. I don't know what it is, but God put it on my heart that it's something you have more to give. And he took me home, whooped my butt.
Right.
I mean, whooped me. And he never relinquished his love and his commitment to me. And for that, it showed me the selflessness. But me being a walking testimony, he got to see the product of his sacrifice before he passed.
Yeah, that's good. That's.
And so that always motivated me. My grandparents are being so selfless that they were in their 50s, 60s when they took me in. And they stopped everything to make sure I had a better future. And that's how I approach these young people. That's how I approach business That's how I approach the city. That's how I approach opportunities. If somebody asks me, can I help? I'm going to go through the valley and back to help them. Why? Because somebody did that for me.
Right.
Throughout my 44 years.
So you've just been able to kind of keep that at the forefront.
Yes.
And that's how
it's always bigger. My push is it's never about me.
Yeah.
It's bigger than me. It's always bigger than me because Christ is bigger than us.
Right.
But he all blessed us all with some kind of gift. And I believe once every leader realizes who the true leader is, meaning Christ, that they will truly step into their gift. Because then they will realize that the good and the bad was meant to happen. Meaning, I don't look at bad,
right,
as a discouragement. It's a motivator.
So it's an opportunity.
It's a motivator.
Yeah.
If a hater comes to me, guess what, Tim? I'll step up. If you talk bad about me, I'm gonna strive to be a better man.
Yeah. That's a gift, man. It's tough for all of us to do that. I joke on here all the time about Crestview word of mouth and how, there's all these experts that actually don't really know anything that are trying to tell me how to do what I do every day. But it's tough to stay focused when things are when you're trying to accomplish something and then you have all this outside advice. So recently you just kind of grew your business a little bit. So did you take on a partner, or
I did.
How did that work? So when you did that, what were some of the characteristics you looked for in that individual when you decided that you were going to go ahead and expand?
First, being a man, being a king, meaning standing for something. I always look.
So let's stop you right there because you talk about kingdom-minded a lot. Like that's something you put on there. Give us an example of what you mean by that.
Meaning, when I say a king is a man who's not afraid to speak up for what's right. He's not afraid to go against it. Yeah, it's a character trait, not to go against the odds. Because sometimes, as you know, the crowd can be the worst thing to follow.
Right.
But some leaders get caught up in following the crowd because I always say a saying, I'd rather be respected than liked. And people always say, what do you mean by that? I said, because when you've been liked, you're like leaves. You'll blow to the right, you'll blow to the left.
Right.
Because you're going to go with the crowd. But when you're respected, you stand for something.
Yeah, I was talking with some folks this morning, and we were talking about kind of the difference between like getting consumed by letting our jobs or our position define us instead of our purpose define us. And so when your purpose defines you, you can do what's right no matter what the outcome is. But when your position kind of defines you, so if I get hung up on the fact that I'm the city manager and I have to do everything I can to stay the city manager, my decisions are going to take into consideration whether everyone's happy or whether they're going to move me out, not whether it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And I think, in the higher we get, or the more influential people are, the higher positionally they get, it's harder if you're not intentional about it to keep that focus, right? Because you don't. The more you have, the less you want to lose it. I think sometimes is the case. And so what you're talking about is you were looking for somebody who was driven more by doing the right
purpose
thing. Yeah.
And passion. And his name is Jeremy, and it's kind of crazy. Quick story or backstory on that is he's a man in church too. That's another key thing. I gotta have a man with pure intentions, meaning money wasn't his drive. That was another key factor.
Right.
Money, getting rich wasn't his drive. Producing opportunities for others to provide for their family was his drive. And that struck me more than anything. Because in business, you've been a businessman. When people get in business and they partner, first thing they say is, how much money can we make? Jeremy wasn't that way. He said, how many people can we impact?
Nice.
Now that changed. That was a game changer because that's my mentality.
Yeah.
My business has been to where it's at, not by me being greedy. Okay? If anybody tracked me from 2014 to now, I've always given back through my business.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talk about a lot. You have to, so we teach a class that's called Developing Me, Developing Others. In our leadership class, we do this 8-month long leadership course for our employees who may want to advance. And so one of the days, the whole day is spent on, it's called Developing Me, Developing Others. And what I explain to them is, that you have to be investing. If you're going to be a leader, people, you can get to a position of supervision by being technically sound. But a supervisor or a manager, for lack of a better way to explain it, is really somebody who manages the situation. If you're an actual leader in that position, then people are choosing to follow you instead of being forced to follow you, right?
Yeah.
Well, they only do that if you're on a larger scale, if you're investing in them. And the other thing we talk about is that our legacy. So you did some landscape work out at the golf course when we first did that real cool kind of golf ball thing you did for us and all that. But those things are projects that you do. Those things don't define you, right? So at the end of all of this, when you look back over your career, what really is going to matter is how many people did you help to reach their full potential. It's not going to matter how many miles of yards were mowed. Those things are a necessity. The way I explain it to my team is that our job, the function of our job, we're going to be technically sound at it, but our function of our job is to allow us the opportunity to do the thing that's most important, and that's to change people's lives. And so it's really cool to hear you say that about Jeremy's his name?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, about Jeremy, because that's one of those ways where you'll know when things get hard, then they're still there, because if you're still making a difference. I mean, you got to make enough to get by. Right?
Yes.
We all got to make a living. So that's that's that whole Maslow's hierarchy there. We got to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it's how do we find value in our day-to-day stuff?
And that's the blessings of business. Like, a lot of people are like, man, you're doing it. But they have no idea that the blessings that the lawn barber is enduring is from the obedience of putting others first.
Sure.
Like, my business wasn't built on major contracts. My business was built on relationships.
Yeah.
With me and people. Because if you take mowing out of Charles is still Charles. Yeah. I'm still going to impact people. I'm still going to love on people. I'm still going to break my back to help you or anybody else that I feel needs that help. Why? Because God has showed me there's people out there, and I wouldn't be sitting right here next to you if people didn't have that same vision and same selflessness in themselves. And that's what makes great leaders. It ain't one who can instruct. It's one who's willing to say, I'm willing to put you ahead of me.
Yeah, it goes back to the gratitude, right? I'm grateful for the people that invested in me, and therefore that's why I'm going to invest in others.
And others,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's addicting too.
It is.
If you see somebody, if you are able to spend some time helping someone or investing in them, and they, move towards reaching their full potential, it gets just addicting.
It does. And the greatest, but I'll speaking on gratitude, I can't leave out the key factor. But he blessed me with a wife that.
Oh yeah, you better, because T might listen.
Man, listen, I wouldn't even be able to pull off half, not even a fourth of what I pull off if it wasn't for that queen.
Right.
Because she supports me. She backs me. She's right beside me. She's the one, little do people know, she's the one really in the background organizing, making sure I dot my I's and cross my T's.
Somebody's got to keep us straight.
That is true. And God bless that woman. And when you find the right one, and we both have.
Oh, yeah.
They will. And the thing I love about her is she has no filter.
Yeah.
Meaning she can be the one. And that's true love. That's what I realized with true love, when they're not afraid to tell you when you're wrong.
Right.
And they're not afraid to help you get right. See, a lot of people, it's all about me. Like, I pray I'll never be that person, because Charles Reynolds didn't put Charles Reynolds in the position Charles Reynolds in. It's God's selflessness and placing angels, people. That's how he blesses us. And I realize that. So that's what I try to do. With my gratitude of his faithfulness, I just try to give it back. Why? Because I see how it changed my life. And guess what? If we do as leaders and we show and we pour into each and every person we have, good or bad, when we walk through that gate, God is going to look at us and say, well done, my good and faithful servant.
Right. So let me ask you this, because I was thinking about, and I know that you spend, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, you spend time at the Department of Juvenile Justice, at the Academy, places like that. How do you continue to stay motivated when people don't receive the message? So I did a lot of work with a men's rehabilitation facility, and one of the things that was, it was so amazing when I would see these guys get clean and get their lives together and all that, but it also was so devastating when they didn't. So how would you help others to be able to kind of compartmentalize that? Because what I think happens sometimes, this is the reason I'm asking this question. It was Project Hope, and when I was working with Project Hope, I had a guy there that I just loved him, invested in him, spent a ton of time with him, and got really, really connected. So when he ended up relapsing, it hit me hard, and so I struggled to go back to that, because I was like, why would I keep investing this time if it's just going to, if this is what the outcome could potentially be? So how do you, because I know not everybody receives the message, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you stay motivated? How would you tell the next person like me to be encouraged and to stay engaged?
Okay. If your mom gave up on you.
Yeah, that's good. That's fair.
You get what I'm saying? Would you, if she just said, okay, Tim, you just didn't get it, I quit. No, yeah. She
probably did a bunch of times.
But her love and her desire to see you succeed. And the reason I'm touching on that is because I always look at opportunities. If I miss one, there's 4 more I reached. Okay. And I was one of those kids that people who mentored me at first, I wasn't listening. I was that hard-headed kid that Tim can speak to me, and Tim don't know nothing about how Charles lived. But right. Tim does. I don't know Tim. Tim may have a story, and guess what? Tim did. And guess what? When Tim revealed his story to Charles and Tim realized we got some kind of connection.
Right.
That's the joy of God. But if we don't ever help and reach out and show our gratitude by giving to others, how are we going to break that wall down? Because like you said, you got hurt because this is why when people get hurt, it's like almost like a church hurt. I think you dove in too much to that individual instead of the overall goal.
The overall mission.
Overall mission was, I'm just going to pour into you enough, because every man and woman has to be able to man up and woman up and say, okay, Tim is helping me. I got to do my part. And you're going to have some that's not mentally strong right now to do that. But that's okay, because that's when God intervened. But we got to keep doing ours, because it's just like, and as you as a leader in the city, if you got an employee who just ain't cutting it, you're not going to just give up. You're going to take another angle. Okay, let me evaluate the situation. Because sometimes it ain't them, it's us. It's how we approach it.
I definitely agree with that. From a leadership perspective, a lot of times we as an organization, especially big organizations like the city, we will create the problem. In other words, we'll tolerate, I use this phrase all the time, allowed behavior becomes learned behavior. We'll create this scenario with someone where they are allowed to conduct themselves a certain way, and then eventually they all of a sudden I decide that behavior is not acceptable anymore, and I don't want to maintain the ownership that I or the organization had in creating that person to be that way, and so that's that becomes a scenario where we got to look at ourselves. I think the other thing about it too, Charles, is that we never know the things that we say today that may not be accepted or received. We may not feel like we made any headway today. We have no idea how that impacts somebody at a later date.
Exactly.
Right. So that's where, I think we just can't, we just don't.
It's always like planting a seed.
Right.
Okay. Leadership is planting seeds. Okay. You wasn't a city
Since
manager.
The gardener. I like this.
You wasn't a city manager 10 years ago. You know what I mean? You were, but look, he planted a seed of leadership back then when you were a business owner, when you went through ups and downs.
Right.
Now that you're a city manager, you know how to handle those situations better than a lot of people.
It definitely gives me perspective on how to try to make sure that we don't cripple our small businesses and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one thing I can honestly say as a small business owner in this city, we love. We love someone who can see, being a small business person, to see at leadership, okay, how can I keep my city and my small businesses effective? And y'all figured out a perfect way, loving on each other, supporting each other, showing each other, hey, I'm here. By you going out and doing that community service, and you don't even know this, but I'm gonna tell you the impact it had just by you showing up. I've been to a lot of states. My wife was military, and I've done community service all the way around. Not once have I ever done a community service and a city manager or mayor, and I'm not saying it because you just here. It was people that didn't even know who you were, and seeing you working, I'm like, yeah, that's city manager, and they're like, jaws hit the ground. Why? It's the perception that city managers don't get in their hands dirty. The mayors don't go in the city. They do the talking, but you did the walking. And your walking touched so many people, including myself. Why? Because now it motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. Because now I'm getting more attention from more others who's there, because you've seen it. It's people who want to help. Yeah. They just waiting for that person to step out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I appreciate that. That was all really, really kind. But I do believe that we have to lead by example. I mean, I definitely think we do, and I think that for me, I genuinely do care about the individuals in the community, and so it makes it a little bit easier maybe for me to do that. And we got like 2 minutes left. So in the last 2 minutes, I want to ask you. So you said your grandparents had a significant influence on you. What if you could talk to your if you could talk to your granddad right now and tell him, hey, this is something I appreciate you taught me, what would it be? You got about 30 seconds to get it out.
Accountability. He's taught me, if you mess up, it's a yield sign. You get to keep going.
Nice.
So that's how I look at things. And everything is a learning lesson.
Right.
Even when you fall, you learn from that. Some of us focus too much on the fall, right, and the pain that fall brings, that we didn't learn. We didn't get the lesson of how we look for that edge we tripped over to fall.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? How can I
focus?
And that's what he's always instilled in me from a young age, from feeding hogs, is accountability. Hey, get up. Nothing's handed to you. He left me this, and I'll leave it. He said, son, if you ever want to get to a place where you want change, he said, get to it where you put yourself in a position to make the change. He said, don't ever come to a situation without a solution.
Yeah.
And I've always taken that. So when if I ever take on a task, my first thing is find a solution before I ever run my mouth.
That's good. That's good. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming in, hanging out
Yes,
with
sir.
us
Thank you.
for our Crestview Leads podcast. I appreciate everything you do in the community. And we at the city look forward to continuing to partner with you as you do go on and do great things.
Thank you, man. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me. This
Thanks,
is an honor.
Charles. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.